I love watching birds in this place. I began watching birds when I was 7 years old in the United States. I came here when I was 26 years old to New Guinea, and it was love at first sight. Look.
For much of his life, Pulitzer Prize-winning author and National Geographic explorer in residence, Jared Diamond, has made regular trips to New Guinea for his work involving birds. Through his studies, he became familiar and friendly with the people of the island nation.
That's old number 2 bush pal cry going. Over the years, I've gotten to know and like thousands of New Guineans. The name belong again, you talk? Name
Yanai.
Yanai. I've learned several of their languages, and much of what I know about birds I picked up from them.
Infinitely curious and academically diverse, Jared's expeditions transitioned from a focus on birds to questions about global inequality and the rise of modern civilizations. What allows some societies to flourish, while others plateau or disappear?
There have been people living in New Guinea for at least 40,000 years. They're among the most culturally diverse and adaptable people in the world. So why are they so much poorer than modern Americans? How did our worlds ever become so different?
To understand his questions about the success of certain civilizations over others, Jared needed to examine a time when there was global balance. 13,000 years ago, before the rise of civilization, people around the world lived as hunter-gatherers in small groups. These nomads were regularly on the move, building shelters wherever they could find animals to hunt or plants to gather. They would stay in one place for months or sometimes only weeks. One of the few remaining places where it's still possible to find people living as hunter-gatherers is the rainforest of Papua New Guinea.
Instead of just reading about this lifestyle in archaeological books, I've been lucky enough to witness it firsthand, to see for myself how we all lived 13,000 years ago and how we found food. To catch an animal requires skill, stealth, and encyclopedic knowledge about hundreds of animal species. You have to be pretty smart to be a hunter.
Around 10,000 years ago, people here began manipulating and favoring certain plants. The way wild plants are adapted by humans for their own use is known as domestication. This development led to early farming and more permanent communities.
The transition to farming was clearly a decisive turning point in human history. People who remained hunter-gatherers couldn't produce anywhere near as much food as farmers, and also couldn't produce much food that could be stored. They were always going to be at a chronic disadvantage. Farming was clearly crucial to the story of human inequality. But just as important was the type of farming. People around the world who had access to the most productive crops became the most productive farmers. Ultimately, it came down to geographic luck.
While availability of productive crops and livestock are not the only keys to the success of civilizations, Jared believes they are the primary factors.
My years in New Guinea have convinced me that people around the world are fundamentally similar. Wherever you go, you can find people who are smart, resourceful, and dynamic. No society has a monopoly on those traits. Of course, there are huge cultural differences, but they're mainly the result of inequality, they're not its root cause. Ultimately, what's far more important is the hand that people have been dealt, the raw materials they've had at their disposal.